Beneath the laughs and iconic black and white aesthetic, the Munsters hid a treasure trove of secrets that even die-hard fans might not know. From unexpected casting changes to behind-the-scenes makeup struggles, and even a car that became just as famous as the show itself, the original Munsters was filled with surprises. But before we start, I'm on a road to get 1,000 subs as a small channel. If you want to help me, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Now let's dive into 10 hidden secrets of the Munsters that will make you see the show in a whole new light. Stay tuned. Some of these will shock you. Believe it or not, the Munsters almost looked very different. In the unaired pilot episode, the family's matriarch wasn't Lily Munster. It was Phoebe Munster, played by Joan Marshall. The character had a gothic, eerie presence, much closer to Morticia Addams from the Addams Family. This resemblance didn't sit well with producers, who feared the two shows would be too similar. As a result, Phoebe was scrapped, and Yvonne DiCarlo was cast as the new matriarch, Lily Munster. DiCarlo's casting was a game changer. Unlike Marshall, who had more of a horror queen presence, DiCarlo brought warmth, humor, and a certain elegance to the role. Her chemistry with Fred Gwynne, Herman Munster, was also undeniable, helping cement the show's success. Imagine if the change had never happened. Would the Munsters have been as iconic as it became? When you think of the Munsters, you probably picture it in its classic black and white format. But did you know the very first pilot was actually shot in color? That's right. The 1964 unaired pilot episode featured vibrant hues that would have made the Munsters' monstrous makeup and eerie home look even more striking. However, when CBS picked up the show, they decided to switch to black and white. Why? Well, there were two main reasons. First, black and white television was still dominant at the time, and it helped the Munsters achieve that classic Universal Monsters aesthetic, making it feel like an old-school horror film. Second, budget constraints played a role. Filming in black and white was simply cheaper. Interestingly, some behind-the-scenes photos from the color pilot still exist, revealing that Herman Munster's iconic green skin was originally a weird shade of violet. Imagine watching the show in full color. Would it have had the same spooky charm? Playing a monster might sound fun, but for Fred Gwynne, who portrayed Herman Munster, it was anything but comfortable. His makeup and costume were a nightmare to endure. The heavy foam rubber suit, oversized platform boots, and thick layers of green-gray pancake makeup turned filming into an exhausting process. Under the hot studio lights, the makeup would often start melting, causing major production delays. To keep things under control, stagehands had to use air compressors to cool Gwynne down between takes. Despite all the effort, his makeup still had to be reapplied constantly. And it wasn't just Gwynne who suffered. Al Lewis, who played Grandpa Munster, had to endure hours in the makeup chair to perfect his vampire look. Even Yvonne DiCarlo wasn't spared. Her white-streaked wig was hot and uncomfortable, and she had to wear long, claw-like nails that made simple tasks difficult. Behind all the laughs, the Munsters were struggling. One of the most iconic pieces of the Munsters wasn't a character at all. It was their custom-built car, the Munster Coach. This monstrous vehicle was a masterpiece of automobile design, built from 3 different Ford Model T bodies and stretching a whopping 18 feet long. It was designed by legendary custom car creator Tom Daniel and built by George Barris, the same genius behind the Batmobile from Batman 1966. The Munster Coach wasn't just for show. It was a fully functional hot rod featuring a powerful Ford Cobra 5.8 engine capable of producing 289 horsepower. The vehicle's gothic detailing, including a blood-red interior and candelabra headlights, made it an unforgettable part of the show. The coach was such a hit that it even made public appearances outside the show, thrilling fans everywhere. Imagine pulling up to work in the Munster Coach. Now that would turn some heads. Before they became the Munsters, Fred Gwynne, Herman Munster, and Al Lewis, Grandpa Munster, had already built a strong comedic partnership on another classic show, Car 54, Where Are You? The duo played bumbling New York City police officers, with Gwynne as the tall, clueless officer, Muldoon, and Lewis as the wisecracking officer, Schnauzer. Their chemistry was undeniable, And when the Munsters was being cast, the producers knew they had a winning pair. Gwyn and Lewis brought that same comedic magic to their new roles, turning Herman and Grandpa's playful arguments into some of the funniest moments on the show. Their real-life friendship also added to the on-screen dynamic. Interestingly, despite his perfect portrayal of a vampire, Al Lewis wasn't actually as old as he seemed. He was only in his early 40s while playing Grandpa. His performance was so convincing that many people believed he was much older. If you ever paid close attention to the Munsters' eerie cuckoo clock, you might have noticed that the little bird inside wasn't just any bird. It was a raven that shouted, "Nevermore!" This was a direct nod to Edgar Allan Poe's famous poem, The Raven, adding a Gothic literary touch to the show. But the real secret? The voice behind that talking raven was none other than legendary voice actor Mel Blanc. Mel Blanc, known as the Man of a Thousand Voices, was the talent behind some of the most famous cartoon characters of all time, including Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Porky Pig. However, for the Munsters, his role was small but memorable. While Blanc provided the Raven's voice for the pilot, he wasn't able to continue the role for the entire series. Actor Bob Hastings eventually took over, but the bird's sarcastic, spooky charm remained the same. If you compare early episodes of the Munsters to later ones, you might notice something subtle. Character makeup evolved over time. This was especially true for Lily Munster. In the first season, her signature white-streaked hair was much more pronounced, almost exaggerated. As the show progressed, it was toned down to give her a softer, more natural look. Herman Munster's makeup also saw adjustments. Initially, his face appeared more angular and harsh, with pronounced shadows that gave him an extra ghoulish look. Later, the makeup team refined his features, softening some of the more severe lines to make him appear more expressive and endearing. Even Grandpa Munster underwent changes. His early appearances had a more pronounced vampire look. But as the show gained popularity, his appearance became a bit friendlier and more comedic. These subtle shifts helped the Munsters balance its horror aesthetic with family-friendly humor. The Munster family's spooky home at 1313 Mockingbird Lane was almost as famous as the characters themselves. But here's something most fans don't know. The exterior of the Munster mansion wasn't built for the show. It had already existed on the Universal Studios lot and had been used in several productions before the Munsters came along. Originally, the house was constructed for the 1946 film So Goes My Love, a period drama set in the 19th century. Over the years, the house underwent multiple modifications, appearing in various Universal projects. When the Munsters came along, the set designers gave it a proper haunted house makeover, adding cobwebs, gothic details, and a generally creepy vibe. After the Munsters ended, the house didn't disappear. It was repainted and reused for other shows, including Desperate Housewives. If you ever visit Universal Studios, you might just spot a piece of Munster history still standing. The Munsters may have looked creepy on screen, but behind the scenes, the cast had a blast. Fred Gwynne, Herman, and Al Lewis, Grandpa, were notorious pranksters on set, constantly pulling tricks on the crew and their fellow cast members. One of their favorite gags involved sneaking up on unsuspecting visitors while in full costume, causing more than a few genuine screams. One of the funniest pranks happened when Fred Gwynne, still dressed as Herman, decided to drive home from the studio without removing his makeup. As he pulled up to a gas station, the attendant nearly fainted, believing he had just come face to face with an actual monster. The cast chemistry and humor made filming fun, even with all the challenges of the heavy makeup and costumes. Their off-screen friendship played a big role in why the Munsters felt like such a real, loving family on TV. Despite its success and lasting legacy, the Munsters only ran for 2 seasons before being abruptly canceled. But why did a show with such a devoted fan base get the axe so quickly? The answer lies in competition, specifically Batman 1966. When Batman premiered in color, it became an instant phenomenon. Audiences, especially younger viewers, were captivated by its vibrant, action-packed storytelling. Suddenly, the Munsters, still in black and white, seemed outdated. CBS saw ratings drop and decided to pull the plug in 1966. There were also other factors. Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis had grown tired of the heavy costumes and demanding schedules. The cost of producing the show, with its elaborate makeup and special effects, was also higher than typical sitcoms of the time. Though it ended too soon, the Munsters lived on in reruns, movies, and reboots, cementing its place as one of television's most beloved cult classics. Despite its success and lasting legacy, the Munsters only ran for 2 seasons before being abruptly canceled. But why did a show with such a devoted fan base get the axe so quickly? The answer lies in competition, specifically Batman, 1966. When Batman premiered in color, it became an instant phenomenon. Audiences, especially younger viewers, were captivated by its vibrant, action-packed storytelling. Suddenly, the Munsters, still in black and white, seemed outdated. CBS saw ratings drop and decided to pull the plug in 1966. There were also other factors. Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis had grown tired of the heavy costumes and demanding schedules. The cost of producing the show, with its elaborate makeup and special effects, was also higher than typical sitcoms of the time. Though it ended too soon, the Munsters lived on in reruns, movies, and reboots, cementing its place as one of television's most beloved cult classics. If you enjoyed these hidden secrets, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more awesome videos. And let me know in the comments what kind of secrets you want to see more about.